Hello audience, this video we're dragging this car out. Now I actually have a number of projects coming in here. In fact, this is one already, which I'm probably not going to film just because I don't have time for it, but the point is, this is getting pretty crowded. I need to relocate this car, and just the same, it's been sitting here for I don't know how many months. Time to change the fluids, make sure it still runs, so in this video we're going to do all that. If you have cars sitting around for months at a time, it's a good idea to get a battery maintainer. It's an even better idea to actually take it out of the box and use it, rather than just let it sit and then hook it up a day before you plan to drive it. And in spite of all that, looks like the battery's still good anyway. And there's the mighty 396. Now the funny thing about this is, even though it's a piece together, it's been together for so long that it's got enough corrosion and grime built up to where it looks like an all-original car that's just really clean, low mileage. Which is funny, that's what everyone assumes it is when they look at this. Just looking at it right now, I completely forgot. I have an early Delcotron for this. This is the later one with the built-in regulator. It's supposed to have the one with the separate regulator, which I got and plan to rebuild it and put it on here. I just completely forgot about it. That might be a fun, simple project. Also, I've got the wrong water outlet on here, but that's a long story that I'll get to later. Now, I cannot overemphasize this, but the wiring on this car is a big mess. A lot of stuff has changed, there's been a lot of problems, and I didn't really know what I was doing when I started on it. Now this harness that goes across over to the starter, I don't know what happened, but at some point when I was driving, it melted. I have no idea why. I assume it short-circuited on the exhaust, but it melted all the way up here. Now this is one reason I kind of don't like driving this right now, is because since I don't know what caused this, I'm not entirely sure if I fixed it, and this car is really hard to push off the side of the road. Now this is one issue typical with cars from this time, is if you let it sit for a few months, the fuel evaporates from the carburetor, and since it's a mechanical fuel pump, it won't run until the engine is turning. Now that's not really a problem on the Falcon, because that has a Holley 1904 on it, and the float bowl is so small you can just stay on the starter for a couple of seconds and that'll fill it. But this has a Rochester Quadrajet, which has a pretty massive float bowl in it, and it would probably take several minutes on the starter to get it to fill up, and that could risk damaging the starter, so it's better to just prime it right now. Alright, that's good enough. I think some of it actually got in the float bowl. And it still runs, which was not really a surprise to me. I expected this. This engine, surprisingly, has actually always been pretty good with cold starting and idling, so next thing I'm going to do is back it up and turn it around so I can actually work on it. If you haven't seen this before, this is my 1965 Chevrolet Impala convertible that I restored / pieced together about 10 years ago. Now, way back when I put this together, I didn't really know much of anything about cars from this time, so I screwed up a lot of stuff and a lot of it needs to be redone. I don't work on it very much though, because in spite of all that, it is a running driving car, and it's the only car I own that looks complete from the outside and the inside, so it's pretty far down on the priority list. But there is quite a bit of stuff that needs to be done on it, and I've been buying quite a few parts for it, so you might see it again in the near future. Let's start with the engine oil, because I think that'll be the simplest. Yeah, it was definitely time to change it. And yes, this thing looks absolutely terrible. I want to clean it up, get a new sticker, and repaint it, but I just don't have time for that right now. Next time I have something else apart on the car for a while, I'll do it then. Now we're going to change the transmission fluid. Now this is a Turbo 400 that I installed not too long ago. Actually, it's been quite a while ago, but haven't really driven it that much since. And it was pretty clean internally. It had been rebuilt not too long ago, but I guess there was some water inside the torque converter that I didn't see, but the fluid is contaminated with that. So I have a choice. I could either take the transmission back out, take it apart, clean it up really good, replace the torque converter, or just change the fluid several times until it's completely flushed out. I decided I'm just going to change the fluid several times because it works really good and I really don't want to take it apart anymore. Okay, we got the oil pan off, and it's worse than I thought. This is some pretty bad contamination here. But what's a bit more worrying than that is all this black stuff, which is probably clutch disc. I said this was rebuilt. I just assumed that because somebody had taken this apart before and gone through a few things, but maybe not. It might still have the original clutch discs in it. So a few fluid changes are probably not going to fix all this. I may have to take it apart and go through it. Maybe even replace the discs, I don't know. But for now I'm just going to put it back together and stick with the plan. Now the good news is, the sealer I put on the gasket has completely failed, so it came off really easy. So I don't have to replace it or scrape the old one off. It's the next day. I put the pan back on, cleaned up the old filter and reused it because what difference is that going to make? I took about a gallon of fluid out of it. I put about that much back in it. Now I'm going to try and flush the torque converter. Now this is something I've never done before, but I read about it on the internet and it seems legit. So what we're going to do is take the cooler line off the side of the transmission, which is easy on this because I never installed a cooler line, and run it into a pan. Which makes logical sense, because on a normal automatic like this one, fluid coming out of the converter goes right to the cooler lines. So I'm going to overfill the transmission by about a gallon and run it until about a gallon comes out of it, and then see where we are from there. I have no idea what kind of pressure that fluid is under going through the cooler lines, so for once on this show I'm actually going to wear safety equipment. Alright, start it.
How long do you want to let it run for? Do you yell?
Yeah, until I tell you.
Okay, starting.
Alright. Stop. Alright, we're done with that now. Ended up running about 2 gallons through the torque converter, and it's still not spotlessly clean, but it's better than it was, so I'm going to leave it at that for now. Next we're going to go after the coolant system, because the coolant is long since overdue to be changed, and there's a few parts I need to change over. So we're swapping over the water outlet, or thermostat housing, whatever you want to call it. Now this is kind of a strange thing because in 66 they were changed over. The 65 and earlier ones, they lean forward a little but point up, and the hose goes over to the right side of the radiator. In 66, it spouted out to the side and the hose went over to the left. Now a lot of parts houses, and surprisingly a lot of experts, think that this changeover happened in 1965, but actually not. And the later one that goes over to the left side, that's actually pretty easy to find, but the early one, not too many people sell those. So I had this one on it for a while, which I found it off Amazon. It was for a 1990s something Chevy truck, and from the picture it looked like the right one, but it leans over to the left side a bit too much, and it doesn't lean forward enough, but it was working. I did, however, find this one from AutoZone. Now what I did was I looked it up by year, make, and model, and they had this, but the example picture was not this. It was of a plastic housing with like 5 different outlets on it, but I took a chance and ordered it anyway, and I ended up getting the right part. So that's how it should look. And if you're wondering, that's the part number. Also bought a new hose because it was due for that anyway. If you're wondering, these are authentic hose clamps. They don't work very well, so I don't recommend using them. If you're wondering, what type of coolant should you use in your antique car? Well, that's an ongoing argument among enthusiasts. Some people get pretty emotional about. I generally try to stay out of that. All I can tell you is what I use. I'm using this generic auto parts store universal green coolant, 50% this, 50% water like in the instructions. I've been using it on all the other cars with no real problems, so that's what I'm using on this. That's good enough for now. Now let's go drive somewhere. Quite often people ask, what's it like driving this? What goes through your mind? Well, for me, I just worry about what's going to break next and how I'm going to push this thing off the side of the road, which is that's just normally the way I think when I'm driving. But actually, aside from a few random electrical problems, this car has actually been pretty reliable. More often than not, it does run. Okay, this is completely strange. The speedometer quit working, while at the same time the tachometer started working. I don't know if I ever mentioned this before, but this has got a later steering box. It's got that GM variable ratio, I think they call it, which is ideal for the winding mountain roads, but it doesn't really feel like a 60s car. It actually has some noticeable feedback to it, which is not really how it should be, so I might update that eventually. Or should I say backdate that. Yep, it still runs and drives, and just about everything on it still works. In fact, the transmission actually shifts a little smoother now than it did, so changing the fluid, that might have actually helped it a bit. And I might have been overreacting a bit on that, because it does have some wear on it, but that doesn't really mean it's completely worn out, so for now I'm just going to leave it and see how it does. Like I said, I need to relocate this for a while. I'm not sure when it'll be back, or what I'm going to do on it next, but you will see it in future videos. So anyway, that's it for now. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.